was the squeal of metal against teeth. And he felt the hot, stinking breath of the animal and a thick tongue stuck into the car. Through the windshield opening, the tongue slapped wetly around the inside of the car. He felt the hot lather of dinosaur saliva, and the tyrannosaur roared, a deafening sound inside the car. The head pulled away abruptly. Tim scrambled up, avoiding the dent in the roof. There was still room to sit on the front seat by the passenger door. The tyrannosaur stood in the rain near the front fender. It seemed confused by what would happen to it. Blood dripped freely from its jaws. The tyrannosaur looked at Tim, cocking its head to stare with one big eye. The head moved close to the car, sideways, and peered in. Blood splattered on the dented roof of the Land Cruiser, mixing with the rain. It can't get to me, Tim thought. It's too big. Then the head pulled away, and in the flare of lightning he saw the hind leg lift up, and the world tilted crazily as the Land Cruiser slammed over on its side, the windows splattering in the mud. He saw Lex fall helplessly against the side window, and he fell down beside her, banging his head. Tim felt dizzy. Then the Tyrannosaur's jaws clamped onto the window frame, and the whole Land Cruiser was lifted up into the air and shaken. Timmy, Lex shrieked, so near to his ear that it hurt. She was suddenly awake, and he grabbed her as the Tyrannosaur crashed the car down again. Tim felt a stabbing pain in his side, and his sister fell on top of him. The car went up again, tilting crazily. "Lex," shouted Timmy, and he saw the door give way beneath her, and she fell out of the car into the mud. But Tim couldn't answer, because in the next instant everything swung crazily. He saw the trunks of the palm trees sliding downward past him, moving sideways through the air. He glimpsed the ground very far below him. The hot roar of the Tyrannosaur, the blazing eye, the tops of the palm trees, and then, with a metallic scraping shriek, the car fell from the Tyrannosaur's jaws, a sickening fall, as Tim's stomach heaved in the moment before the world became totally black and silent. In the other car, Malcolm gasped, "Jesus, what happened to the car?" Grant blinked his eyes as the lightning faded. The other car was gone. Grant couldn't believe it. He peered forward, trying to see through the rain-streaked windshield. The dinosaur's body was so large it was probably just blocking. No, in another flash of lightning, he saw clearly. The car was gone. What happened?" Malcolm said. "I don't know." Faintly over the rain, Grant heard the sound of a little girl screaming. The dinosaur was standing in the darkness on the road up ahead, but they could see well enough to know that it was bending over now, sniffing the ground, or eating something on the ground. "Can you see?" Malcolm said, squinting. "Not much, no," Grant said. The rain pounded on the roof of the car. He listened for the little girl, but he didn't hear her anymore. The two men sat in the car listening. "Was it the girl?" Malcolm said finally. "It sounded like the little girl." "It did, yes. Was it?" "I don't know," Grant said. He felt a seeping fatigue overtake him. Blurred through the rainy windshield, the dinosaur was coming towards their car. Slow, ominous strides coming right toward them. Malcolm said, "You know, at times like this one feels, well, perhaps extinct animals should have been left extinct. Don't you have that feeling now?" "Yes," Grant said. He was feeling his heart pounding. Do you have any suggestions about what we do now?" "I can't think of a thing," Grant said. Malcolm twisted the handle, kicked open the door and ran, but even as he did, Grant could see that he was too late. The Tyrannosaur too close. There was another crack of lightning, and in that instant of glaring white light, Grant watched in horror as the Tyrannosaur roared and leapt forward. Grant was not clear about exactly what happened next. Malcolm was running, his feet splashed in the mud. The Tyrannosaur bounded alongside him and ducked his massive head, and Malcolm was tossed into the air like a small doll. By then, Grant was out of the car too, feeling the cold rain slashing his face and body. The Tyrannosaur had turned its back to him, the huge tail swinging through the air. Grant was tensing to run for the woods, when suddenly the Tyrannosaur spun back to face him and roared. Grant froze. He was standing beside the passenger door of the Land Cruiser, drenched in rain. He was completely exposed, the Tyrannosaur no more than 8 feet away. The big animal roared again. At so close a range, the sound was terrifyingly loud. Grant felt himself shaking with cold and fright. He pressed his trembling hands against the metal of the door panel to steady him. The Tyrannosaur roared once more, but it did not attack. It cocked its head and looked with first one eye, then the other, at the Land Cruiser, and did nothing. It just stood there. What was going on? The powerful jaws opened and closed. The Tyrannosaur bellowed angrily, and then the big hind leg came up and crashed down on the roof of the car. The claws slid off with a metal screech, barely missing Grant as he stood there, still unmoving. The foot splashed in the mud. The head ducked down in a slow arc, and the animal inspected the car, snorting. It peered into the front windshield. Then, moving toward the rear, it banged the passenger door shut and moved right toward Grant as he stood there. Grant was dizzy with fear, his heart pounding inside his chest. With the animal so close, he could smell the rotten flesh in the mouth, the sweetish blood smell, the sickening stench of the carnivore. He tensed his body, awaiting the inevitable. The big head slid past him, toward the rear of the car. Grant blinked. What had happened? Was it possible that Tyrannosaur hadn't seen him? It seemed as if it hadn't. But how could that be? Grant looked back to see the animal sniffing the rear-mounted tire. It nudged the tire with its snout, and then the head swung back. Again it approached Grant. This time the animal stopped, the black flaring nostrils just inches away. Grant felt the animal's startling hot breath on his face, but the Tyrannosaur wasn't sniffing like a dog. It was just breathing, and if anything it seemed puzzled. No, the Tyrannosaur couldn't see him, not if he stood motionless. And in a detached academic corner of his mind he found an explanation for that, a reason why. The jaws opened before him, the massive head raised up. Grant squeezed his fists together and bit his lip, trying desperately to remain motionless, to make no sound. The Tyrannosaur bellowed in the night air, but by now Grant was beginning to understand. The animal couldn't see him, but it suspected he was there, somewhere, and was trying, with its bellowing, to frighten Grant into some revealing movement. So long as he stood his ground, Grant realized he was invisible. In a final gesture of frustration, the big hind leg lifted up and kicked the Land Cruiser over, and Grant felt searing pain and the surprising sensation of his own body flying through the air. It seemed to be happening very slowly, and he had plenty of time to feel the world turn colder and watch the ground rush up to strike him in the face. So, thank you for listening to my video. It's only a short chapter, but it takes ages to read, so I hope this was enjoyable for you. I love this scene. It's one of my favourite scenes in movie history, and I hope you really liked this video. And it was relaxing. So thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.